It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I had spent months meticulously planning every detail of the wedding, from the flowers to the music, ensuring everything was perfect. But as the sun rose that morning, an unshakable feeling of unease crept into my chest. I told myself it was just nerves. After all, it wasn't every day you pledged forever to someone. Liam and I had been together for 7 years. He was my high school sweetheart, my confidant, and my best friend. We'd grown up together, weathered the challenges of college, and stood by each other through thick and thin. To me, Liam was the epitome of loyalty and love, or so I thought. My sister Mary was also a big part of my life. Being just 2 years younger than me, we had always been close. She had an effervescent charm, the kind that drew people in effortlessly. Liam had always been friendly with Mary, and I'd never thought much of it. Their camaraderie seemed harmless, even endearing. But there were moments, fleeting instances, when things didn't sit right. Like how Mary's boyfriends always seemed unreasonably jealous, or how she'd occasionally make offhand comments about relationships that felt oddly personal. Yet, I brushed it all aside, telling myself that my concerns were baseless. The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my veil. My maid of honor, my best friend since childhood, was bustling around, ensuring everything was in order. "You look stunning," she said, her voice tinged with emotion. I smiled, trying to ignore the pang of anxiety gnawing at me. Guests had begun arriving, and the soft hum of chatter filled the air. I picked up my phone to send Liam a quick text, just to say I couldn't wait to see him. But when I opened our chat, the last message I'd sent the night before was still unread. He's probably busy, I thought, dismissing the unease. Minutes turned into hours. The ceremony was set to begin, but there was no sign of Liam. My maid of honor whispered reassurances, saying he was likely stuck in traffic or dealing with last-minute nerves. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. My heart sank when one of Liam's groomsmen approached me, his face pale. "He's not here," he said quietly, avoiding my gaze. Panic set in. I tried calling Liam, but my calls went straight to voicemail. When I checked his social media, I realized he had blocked me. The realization hit like a freight train. He wasn't coming. As I stood there, dressed in white, surrounded by hundreds of guests, humiliation washed over me. My sister was nowhere to be found either, which only added to the growing sense of dread. It was my maid of honor who finally broke the news. Liam and Mary had disappeared together. In the days that followed, the betrayal unraveled. Mary's ex-boyfriend had confided in me that she was pregnant and had manipulated Liam into believing the baby was his. Devastation didn't even begin to cover how I felt. I had lost not just the man I loved, but also the sister I had trusted. For a year, I lived in a haze of heartbreak. Therapy became my lifeline, helping me piece together the fragments of my shattered life. Slowly, I began to rebuild. I moved to a new city, found a job I loved, and surrounded myself with people who genuinely cared about me. Then, I met Adam. He was everything Liam wasn't: kind, patient, and unwaveringly supportive. Our relationship blossomed, and for the first time in years, I felt a semblance of happiness. But just as I started to feel secure, the past came knocking. It was an ordinary afternoon when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I answered, not thinking much of it. The voice on the other end made my blood run cold. "It's Liam," he said, his voice shaky. "I need to talk to you." I was stunned. Why was he reaching out after all this time? "There's nothing to talk about," I replied curtly, my heart pounding. "Please," he pleaded. "I read your messages. I know everything now. Mary lied to me." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. Curiosity got the better of me. I needed to hear what he had to say. When we met, Liam looked like a shadow of the man I once knew. He told me how Mary had manipulated him, how their marriage had crumbled, and how he had discovered that the child wasn't his. He apologized profusely, admitting he had made the biggest mistake of his life. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he said. "I just needed you to know the truth." I listened. my emotions a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of vindication. I told him there was no going back, that his actions had irrevocably changed me. But the fallout didn't end there. My family, particularly my parents, turned against me. They accused me of meddling and blamed me for Liam and Mary's separation. It was as though their loyalty to Mary blinded them to the pain she had caused me. Adam stood by my side through it all, encouraging me to focus on our future. We decided to take a 2-week road trip, hoping to escape the chaos and find some clarity. The journey was transformative. As we drove through scenic landscapes, I realized I needed to prioritize my own happiness. When we returned, I made the difficult decision to cut ties with my family. Their unwavering support for Mary, despite her betrayal, was a betrayal in itself. I blocked their numbers and moved forward with my life, vowing never to let their toxicity pull me down again. Adam's unwavering support became the cornerstone of my recovery. He reminded me daily that I deserved better, and for that, I was endlessly grateful. I threw myself into hobbies I had once loved but had abandoned over the years. Painting became a solace for me, the strokes of color on canvas mirroring my journey from despair to hope. Then came an unexpected twist. I received an email from Mary. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." It was the last thing I expected, and for a moment, I considered ignoring it. But curiosity got the better of me. Her message was long and full of remorse. She admitted to her lies and manipulation, confessing that she had acted out of jealousy and insecurity. She begged for a chance to reconcile. I stared at the screen, torn. Could I forgive her? Did I even want to? After everything she had done, the scars she had left, I wasn't sure reconciliation was possible. I decided to take my time before responding, seeking advice from Adam and my therapist. Days turned into weeks, and the email remained unanswered. In the meantime, I focused on building a future with Adam. We began looking for a home together, excited about the prospect of starting a new chapter. Yet a part of me couldn't shake the weight of Mary's email. It lingered like a shadow, a reminder of the unresolved threads in my life. One evening, Adam and I sat on the couch, scrolling through photos of houses. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you think you'll ever respond to Mary?" I sighed. I don't know. Part of me wants to move on without looking back. But another part feels like I need closure. He nodded thoughtfully. Closure doesn't always come from others. Sometimes it's something you give yourself. His words stuck with me. The next day, I drafted a response to Mary. It wasn't long, but it was honest. I told her I appreciated her apology, but that forgiveness wouldn't erase the pain she had caused. I wished her well, but made it clear that I needed to focus on my own healing. Hitting send felt like releasing a heavy burden. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the weight of betrayal, free from the need for validation, and free to embrace the life I was building with Adam. As for Liam, I heard through mutual friends that he had moved to another state, trying to start over. Part of me hoped he found peace, but I knew his journey was his own. My journey, on the other hand, was just beginning. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead.